So here's a prototype of our game we're going to make. Not fully completed yet, but here we have our main player is going to be a sphere that rolls around. We are using the WASD keys to move around, or you could use arrow keys or even a controller. And we have a camera that follows the player as they move around with some settings that have a bit of a lag, kind of create a more interesting feel. We have objects that can be pushed around and objects that can't be. We have collectibles, so we have a coin type thing that we can pick up. I don't have the score implemented in the UI yet in this prototype, but that's where we're at. We're also going to set up a landscape. So we're going to set up our environment to use a tool that's in Unreal for landscape, where we have the ability to kind of create ramps and these dugouts, and we can actually even add in props and buildings and stuff on top of it as well. This is going to be a physics-based game, so our movement's all going to be based around making this ball roll around. The player's not going to have the easiest control. It's going to be physics-based, so as you roll forward, in order to stop and slow down, it's a little bit harder to change directions. Adding a bit of challenge to, like, you have to map out and plan your moves. The goal for this will eventually be to just survive and pick up all of the coins and not to fall in various traps that we'll be implementing, such as lava or hitting spikes or falling off the edge of the planet. So yeah, this is the early prototype version of our game. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to start our project. Your first step is going to be to get the files off of GitHub. You're going to click the link provided in the video, and then you're going to accept the assignments or download the code from GitHub, get it into GitHub Desktop. When you're in GitHub Desktop, you're going to be able to see 3 buttons here. If you click Show in Finder, this will open up your File Explorer, and you're going to see a project that has a ending that says .u project. You're going to double click on that. Yours will probably have a symbol. Mine doesn't because I'm on a Mac, but if you double click on that, it'll bring up your Unreal project. Now, this project is a more or less blank template. There's really nothing in here. Only thing I did was set up some settings that we don't really want to have to worry about. And you should just have a ground and a basic sky atmosphere, directional light, and all that stuff here for you. So the first thing you might want to do is to modify your lights and your clouds in order to change, the overall kind of vibe and appearance. Remember, if you go to your directional light, you can change the sky atmosphere ambient contribution, give you kind of a different kind of look there. You can change your sky atmosphere color here with the Rayleigh shading in order to give a different kind of appearance. I'm going to leave mine the same as default. And then you can also go to your sky light and change the light color as well of the sun and position your sun if you want to, your skylight. So for the first thing that we need to do when building a roll-a-ball game is to make the ball. So I'm going to go to my content drawer. Going to go to my content folder. I'm going to right click, new folder, and call it blueprints. Inside of here, we're going to go ahead and create a blueprint class. It'll be a pawn. I'll call it BP player ball. Let's go ahead and open that up. Now, the first thing we want to do is add a collision. So we'll do a sphere collision. And I'll set that as the scene root by dragging that up here. The next thing we want to do is add in a mesh. So we'll do add, I'll type in mesh, and we'll look for a static mesh. We'll add that there. And the static mesh setting on the right, we'll click here and we'll click on sphere. And we'll do shape sphere. And we're going to need to move this, change location to like negative, say 50. So it's in the middle. And we will increase the size of our sphere collider. We'll set the sphere radius to about, I'll do 51. So we can just barely see it. Now this is probably too big, but it's fine for our purposes right now. Let's go click on our sphere and let's actually rename this. I'm going to right click, rename. I'll call this Sphere Collider. It's easier to tell what it is. With the Sphere Collider selected, we're going to go to our collision settings. And then let's change our collision preset to pawn. And let's click our static mesh. We'll set the sphere collision for this one to be no collision. That's because we want the collider to do the collisions. We don't want the actual ball itself to do them, in case we decide to change the sphere into something else. Next, we need to make a material. Well, actually, first let's compile and save. Back that up. Go to our content drawer, content folder, and let's make a new folder for materials. Open that up, right click, and then we'll add a material. We'll call it M Player Ball. Now this is going to be a temporary material. You might want to import something a little bit later. For right now, let's just kind of get it up and running, right? Open that up. I'm going to set my base color here to like a teal color. I like that color. You can pick whatever color you want to. Again, this is more or less temporary. We're going to end up changing this later anyways. All right, so once you have that, go ahead and click save, and you can close that. Now we just need to set the material. So we'll drag our material onto our player ball, and that doesn't do it automatically. All that does is pop up the ability to set the material. So now we can set the material here, and now we have a player ball. Let's go to our testing ground map, which is the main map that we're working with for right now. And let's drag our BP player ball blueprint into here. And we have a player ball. It's far from the only thing we have to do, but we have something here. All right, so now we need to make it so our player, when they play the game, can control the player ball. We have a couple steps to do there first, though. We go back to our BP player ball. I'm going to select my BP player ball, the root here. I'm going to go to add, and we're going to add something called a spring arm. Now, spring arm is basically, think of it almost like a selfie stick or something like that, where you can place something a set distance away and it will track based on that location. And the thing we're going to add here is going to be our camera. So this is actually important. With our spring arm selected, click add camera. You want to make sure that the spring arm is selected. That way it nests the camera into spring arm. So wherever our spring arm goes, the camera follows. In fact, let's go and take our spring arm. Let's rename this. I'm going to call it a camera boom. It's a boom arm. It's basically keeping the camera set distance away. And we get extra controls this way that we wouldn't by just nesting the camera and moving it over. So go ahead and hit compile and hit save. Back to our testing ground, and we see that we have a preview where we have a camera on our player ball. But if we press play, we're not controlling that player ball. We're still controlling the default player class, default pawn. So we need to change that. So go to Window, World Settings, Game Mode Override. I'm gonna hit the plus button. We're gonna make a new game mode. I'll put it inside my blueprints folder. I'll call it BP_game mode. Click save. And then we can set our default pawn class. Click there, and then we'll set it to BP player ball. Press play. We now have a ball as the player, and our camera's set distance away. However, we can't do anything yet. There's no controls, no movement, and as it stands, there's no physics even. It doesn't even fall. Let's go ahead and fix that part. Go to our BP player ball with our sphere collider selected. Go down to where it says simulate physics and turn that on. Compile and save. And now our player ball falls. we're on our way. I'm going to select this other player ball that we made earlier, that I dragged in here earlier. I'm going to delete that because we don't need it. Wherever our player starts is where our player will, start. Now, when we press play, our camera is a set distance away and not necessarily the most useful view. But I'm not going to worry about positioning the camera yet because honestly, we're going to be setting up our camera to follow the mouse movement anyways. So we'll kind of just leave that alone for right now. And we already have a lot of great progress. Our project's already has some of the basic components that we need to work with. So now it's all about just adding in movement and adding in other features. So that's it for this one. Thanks.